All right, guys. So real quickly, I'm gonna go over workers' comp workers' compensation and exemption for your contracting business. So one of the reasons why this is going to be so important, guys, is because you're not going to be able to cash checks. You're not going to be able to sign up for your local building department to pull permits unless you show verification of your workers' compensation and insurance policy or your insurance and workers' comp exemption. So, let's look at this real quick and just go over exactly what you're going to need to do in order to get everything hooked up. So after you get your license, you're able to start going. So this is going to be under the Department of Financial Services, and what's covered in this video, we're going to go over what's an exemption, who's eligible for an exemption. That's going to be a corporate officer, limited liability member. You really need to be careful how you structure your business entity, or this might not apply to you and you'll be forced to get workers' compensation for your own salary, which could increase costs, and you might not even need it. If you're doing office work and just subbing things out, you don't really need workers' compensation. But just remember, if you don't get workers' compensation and you get an exemption, if you do get hurt, you're not eligible for funding for your injuries or anything through the workers' compensation. So if you want to be exempt, you're going to need to obtain a certificate of election to exemption, and you're going to have to do a little course that is going to allow you to show that you understand the situation, and it's gonna just basically go over everything in a little more detail than what I'm going over. I'm just laying out what needs to be done for you to obtain this. So you're going to obtain a workers' compensation policy or exemption from the Florida licensed insurance agent. If you have employees, guys, you have to have a workers' compensation policy. Don't play games with this, because if they do get hurt and you don't have a policy in place, you're in big trouble. And there's a lot of little things that this is going to affect. So please, guys, do not play games with workers' compensation. Pay the dues, pay what's required if you're operating your business in a manner that they go over is required. So, the purpose of obtaining an exemption is for an officer of a corporation or member of a limited liability company to exclude themselves as employees from workers' compensation laws. This, as you know, if you're going through your contractor licensing books, there are laws in place for this. This isn't just best practices, they're actual laws, and there's consequences to not abiding by the law. So please do not get yourself caught up in this. It's a decent percentage of the salary of the employee. So if you get this wrong, they could end up coming back and racking up a bunch of fees that are owed for not paying this if it was deemed that you were supposed to be paying them. So please, guys, get this right. Once you get the exemption, you're gonna get an exemption card and proof that you're either exempt or what your policy is, and that's what you're gonna turn into the local building department, or if you're cashing checks, to the check cashing place. Very important, guys. So if you have a stop work order or working violation, they're not going to issue the exemption. You're going to need to have your SunBiz information already taken care of. You're going to need to have your EIN number. You're going to need to have a valid driver's license or identification card. If you get something wrong when typing in your information, they'll deny the exemption, or they'll deny the policy, and you're not going to get issued either the policy or exemption. So if you want to apply for an exemption, you just go on to www.myflorida cfo.com/division/WC. If you're going to end up getting a full workers' comp insurance package, depending on the amount of employees and all that, you need to call a local insurance agent and they'll get you all set up with that. If you do want to call and just find out what's going on, a little more detail, you can contact the National Council on Compensation Insurance at 1-800-622-4123. So for non-construction industries, which I'm not really going to go over because I really am here to help contractors and people in the construction industry, but there's some requirements here. No more than 10 members of an LLC may be elect to exempt. To applicants must at least to a minimum 10% ownership of the LLC. So, you can't have a full-time employee that isn't a partner or owner of the business get an exemption to try to avoid paying workers' compensation for them. And again, guys, it's not about finding a loophole to not pay the proper insurance. It's about doing things the right way. If you play games with this, it probably will come back to bite you in the butt, and I don't want to see that happen to any of you. Just don't play games, guys, because if someone gets hurt and they were supposed to have workers' compensation, that's going to be a direct lawsuit against you and your assets, and it's just not going to be a good look. Please, guys, do the right thing. So the construction industry requirements, it's going to be, again, the applicant must attest to a minimum of 10% ownership of the corporation or limited liability company, no more than 3 officers for construction. I know the non-construction industry was 10. For the construction industry, no more than 3 officers or members of a limited liability company or any group of associated companies may be elected to exemption. The application processing fee is $50, no big deal. An applicant associated with the payment that is insufficient is not eligible for an exemption. For corporations, the applicant must be listed as an officer of the corporation in the records of the Florida Department of State Division of Corporation. So some general information real quick. Exemptions are issued to individual officers or members that qualify and not to the corporation. So each person has to have their own exemption. This isn't a blanket, my company is exempt. This is individual, guys, and you got to keep the records on point. And they, again, exemptions are valid for 2 years, 2-year periods. So every 2 years, you're going to have to update it if those employees or owners are still with the company. So a separate application must be submitted for each officer or member. If an officer or member wishes to be exempt from multiple entities, a separate application must be filed for each. If you have different businesses, guys, you need a separate exemption for each one of those if it's dependent on the circumstances. So the effective and expiration dates are listed on the certificate of election to be exempt. And if you want to contact the state for more information and you have any questions outside of what I've went over here, you could find this PDF on their website. You can email them at workers.compservice@fldfs.com. You can give them a call at 1-850-413-1609. And again, you can go right here, go check out the website and fill it out. It's pretty quick. It takes about 24 to 48 hours to get this done. And this is overseen by the Department of Financial Services of the state. This is a very serious thing, guys. Please don't play games with this. I want to see you all succeed. Take care of your workers' comp policy. Take care of your insurance. And if you do qualify for an exemption, get yourself an exemption and get it done. Talk to you on the next video, guys. Good luck.